Hey, everybody. All right, so I'm going to finish going over the terms from yesterday, and then, not the terms, I mean the notes from yesterday, and then from there I will get into an intro to Korea and the Korean War. The only thing that I did not talk about yesterday was that very last slide when we were talking about, um, sorry, do some adjusting. National security, and we said that the CIA gets started up, the Central Intelligence Agency. We also see a new parts of, what's the word I'm looking for? A new division start up as well. So the National Security Council gets going during this time period as well. The biggest thing that I want you guys to make sure that you circle, star, highlight, well actually two things really quick. The National Security Act of 1947 gets started up, which is what, not started up, but gets signed, which is what creates the CIA, and that's also what creates the National Security Council. And then we talked about NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that starts up, that has Canada, the United States, and Western Europe as all in it together. And then, of course, to oppose that, we have the Warsaw Pact, which is the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. So we see this division happening between, and it's basically democracy versus communism is what we see break out. The biggest thing that we have to fear is the fact that the Soviet Union creates and tests their own in 1949, I'm making sure I say the year right, 1949, their own nuclear missile. So now we begin this arms race. So now that we have the technology, we know that they have the technology, now we're trying to one-up them. So we want to create something bigger than this, and that's why it's now the race to create a hydrogen bomb, which is taking everything up another level. So that's what I did not finish from yesterday. And then today and tomorrow will be me introing us into the Korean War. And the Korean War, we're not really spending much time on that. It is a 2-year war, but we're going to kind of speed through it kind of fast. We don't usually spend much time on the Korean War anyway. But some things to keep in mind as far as the Korean War. One thing is the whole reason why we get into Korea and Vietnam both is all over communism and containment. So the two C's, communism and containment. So those two things, and things go downhill pretty fast. A lot of people are not really sure whether we need to get involved in Korea, but we still have a lot of government supporters that believe that the government is telling us, you know, this is what we need to do in order to take care of ourselves and the safety. Whoops, I hit the wrong slide, I'm sorry. This is what we need to do for our country, is to save it from communism spreading, again working on that idea of containment, and trying to help those that we consider to be weak. And we were really worried. We didn't want to see another country fall to communism, so we thought we needed to jump in. So it comes down to Korea is divided. It's North Korea, South Korea. North Korea is communist. They're trying to take over all of Korea. You're going to see, and not just see, but hear a very similar story whenever we talk about Vietnam as well. So think about a lot of these similarities. Try and keep that in mind for what's coming. But a lot of people are not excited about us being in another war. A lot of people are really hesitant to getting involved in another war so soon after World War II is over. However, they feel like the government is doing what is in our best interest, and that we're trying to be part of the UN, the World Peacekeeping Organization, and do what is in the best interest of other citizens around the world. Okay, I'm sorry, it's taken a few minutes. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple of things. Number one, Truman is in charge. It is Truman that will get us into the Korean War. He will see the Korean War all the way through until the very end. That's when we have the next election come up. And it will actually be Eisenhower that will officially get us out of the Korean War. Eisenhower, if you remember, Eisenhower was the general put in charge of the war in Europe at the end of World War II. Alright, now, finally got it up and running, so let's make sure we hit the key points that are on your notes for Korea and the Cold War. So this is the first time we've talked about any physical fighting taking place during the Cold War, because the whole point of the Cold War is that it's not an actual physical altercation, that it's just a getting us to the brink of war. Alright, so come on. I'm sorry, it's being super slow today. I'm trying to use my daughter's computer to bring up my notes and then use my computer to film the lesson. Alright. So take a look at the map. Make sure you see the difference where it splits, the parallel which divides north versus south. And think about another thing. We're going to hear about China falling to communism as well, which is where it starts out. So China, who had been a friend and ally of ours, and we've been trying to help them, assist them with building up their economy and things like that, they have a revolution that happens after World War II. They, like several other war-torn countries, are struggling to rebuild socially, politically, economically, and again, economically and politically are the two biggest areas. So, the United States is going to spend billions, $2 billion to be exact, $2 billion to send in aid to try and keep who we are supporting as the Republic candidate in charge, and Mao Zedong, who is the communist leader, is going to be the one going up against him. Here's the bad thing. The bad thing about it is the fact that the guy that we're backing and support, just because he is a Democratic candidate, sorry, my brain's going blank today, he's actually not a good guy. He really doesn't treat the people well. So, I don't know, in a way we're kind of backing him for not all the right reasons. But it doesn't matter. He doesn't win. Mao Zedong wins, and they become a communist nation. We see another country fall to the dark side, right? So we're really concerned that we're going to see countries near them, beside them, and around them also fall to communism. Well, guess who is a next-door neighbor? Korea. Korea is a next-door neighbor. So North Korea will fall to communism. They're trying to make Korea all one nation. So after China falls to communism again, we're watching other surrounding nations. The 38th parallel, I want to make sure I didn't say the wrong one, because sometimes I'll say the division between Vietnam, North and South, and Korea get mixed up sometimes. But anyway, so Korea is split at the 38th parallel. We have the North invading the South. We call for the UN to be able to step in. We're a big member of the UN, so we decide that we're going to step in on behalf of South Korea. And hey, guess what? Who's going to step in on behalf of North Korea? Well, China will. So as everything gets started, General MacArthur, who we talked about being a general in the Pacific, he actually went and governed Japan at the very end of World War II in the Pacific. Douglas MacArthur is there. He's launching an invasion, and he actually is trying to push across the border into North Korea. But here's the thing, he's actually going to have conflicting ideas with what needs to happen with Truman. Truman, not just president, but he's over the military forces, he's commander-in-chief, and he and Truman really butt heads about what needs to happen and take place. MacArthur says that we need to actually push into China and go after the Chinese, and MacArthur kind of gets thrown on his butt, because after a major invasion into North Korea, trying to make it all the way to the border between North Korea and China, we get our butts handed to us. And MacArthur is almost kind of shocked. Like, he really didn't realize that the Chinese were going to come at us with that much force. We really thought that we'd be in and done and it would be over and we'd have them on retreat, but that was not the case. And we realized that this might be more intense than what we realized. And Truman tells MacArthur, we're not launching an invasion into China. And MacArthur doesn't agree. He thinks that Truman is being weak and actually talks bad about him over the radio and like publicly criticizes Truman. And Truman's like, all right, fine, you're fired, bye. So anyway, MacArthur gets fired, and quick, fast, and in a hurry, war is over. It does take 2 years. Everything ends where it began at the 38th parallel. North Korea stays communist, South Korea stays a democratic republic, but lives are lost, money and supplies have been spent. A lot of people are really upset that we got into a war again so soon after World War II was over. We see the resurgence of the Red Scare, just like after World War I. We see people starting to fear and have an irrational fear that we too might have communist spies and we too might fall to communism and all these things. So you see another committee start up, and I love the name of this committee. I like just saying the name of the committee, but it's the House of Un-American Activities Committee. I gotta say it like that because I think it sounds hilarious. But anyway, so the House of Un-American Activities Committee is almost just like we saw after World War I. They're going to go on a wild witch hunt looking for anybody that might be considered a communist spy. Even just saying the word communism could get you in a lot of trouble. Truman and the government, they're really trying to take steps to make sure we don't have anybody that is a spy in the government or any of the agencies. So they create what they call a loyalty board to start launching investigations and questioning people, but a lot of times it gets out of hand just because people are not going based on evidence. They're just basing it off of rumors and what they hear other people say. People are questioning if their Bill of Rights are being denied because we're not allowing them to have freedom of speech. You know, even just because you said something doesn't mean that you're a communist supporter. But anyway, we also see in Hollywood always, and I'm waiting on a movie or TV show to come out about what we're experiencing right now because it's going to happen. But Hollywood always plays off of the drama that's happening in real life. And so we have actors and actresses and movie directors and screenwriters that were creating movies and shows about what was happening during the Red Scare and the spread of communism, and they got questioned and they got in trouble and they got interrogated, and people were like being blacklisted in the arts community because people were assuming just because they were writing about this stuff that they were actually communist supporters, which was not really the case. But somebody always has to go too far before we realize we got to shut this down because there's little to no evidence of what is actually happening and if these people actually have anything to do with being communist spies and supporters. And what takes it over the edge is going to be anytime, of course, somebody is executed, that's when you realize maybe we're taking things too far. Well, last time we talked about Sacco and Vanzetti. This time we're talking about the Rosenbergs. And there's a lot of false rumors out there about the Rosenbergs. It is a married couple that were found to be passing atomic bomb secrets to the Soviet Union. And this happened in 1951. They were found and executed in 1953. And again, anytime anybody, you take it to the point of you're killing people, then we need to take a step back and reevaluate and make sure that we are basing it off of good, hard evidence, right? So that's when everything kind of comes to a halt. Joseph McCarthy is the senator going out accusing everybody of being communist spies. He starts accusing leaders and leaders' wives, and again, anytime you start pulling in somebody's family, you're pulling out the big guns and going a little bit too far, so we have to end up putting a halt on everything. 1954, 1955, we stop because we realize people are being brought in with no hardcore evidence of them actually being a legit communist spy, whatever. Alright, we're going to stop there and I'll finish tomorrow.